So now our next speaker is someone very near and dear to my heart because he's been a mentor to so many of us here at Texas State University, and he has an unwavering championing spirit as it comes to justice and equality. And he's been championing justice and equality for many years. And that is Dr. Dwight Watson. Dr. Watson is Professor Emeritus in the Texas State University Department of History. In addition to his teaching responsibilities, he's previously served as Interim Chief Diversity Officer and Special Assistant to the Provost, and is the founder of the Neighborhood Mentoring Program for faculty and students here at Texas State. Dr. Watson's teaching specializations include African American history, race, and law, the transformation of the South, and the civil rights movement. Something very interesting about Dr. Watson is that he has worked in nearly every facet of law enforcement, focusing on reform, including corrections, probation, and parole. He has served as a counselor for youth in various states of addictions. His primary research area is law and race, or race and law race and law in U.S. history. And if that's not apropos, right? An apropos area for research and of research for these times, I don't know what is. One of his most profound scholarly works is his book, A Change Did Come, The Transformation of the Houston Police. He is currently working on Black Bayou, how Houston's Black elites fought to end Jim Crow in Texas. Please welcome Professor Emeritus Dr. Dwight Watson.
Good morning. How are you? Dr. Trout, the Bobcat Nation. Thank you so much for inviting me. It is apparent that the charge for me today is to briefly give a historical synopsis of Jim Crow in Texas and Juneteenth. Juneteenth officially began, as Dr. Ben said, when Gordon Granger stepped on a balcony, allegedly in Galveston, Texas. But the truth of the matter is it was really hot that day, and Granger was tired and fussy because of the heat, sent his attaché out to read the order. And he would come out later to read an additional order. But Gordon Granger bought hope. He bought freedom. And Juneteenth opened the door for African Americans to achieve a dream. That was freedom. However, quite a few Texans of African descent did not receive notice of freedom until as long as December of 1865, largely due to the fact that the cotton crop was the most important commodity for the state, and they wanted to ensure that the slave labor would be there to pick the cotton. But for those who found a new birth of freedom, they did what many call the great scatter. They walked, they rode horses, wagons, and buggies. They swam across rivers, even though they were being shot at by former plantation owners as saying that they were abandoning them. They were trying to find their family. They were trying to reconnect. And then Granger establishes Field Order Number 5, which established the 5th Military District in Texas, where the Union troops would ensure minimal protection for the former slaves and carpetbaggers who were helping to reform the country. But they also assured that they would get the cotton crop out, but the former slaves would have all rights guaranteed to them by the Constitution and later affixed by the 13th Amendment freeing the slaves. So that's the brief history. The celebration of Juneteenth, however, began almost immediately. Jack Yates in Houston and a group bought a 10-acre plot called which would later become Emancipation Park. They bought land in Mejia, Texas, a small group did. And these celebrations would go on until the aggressive birth of Jim Crow segregation in the states. And these celebrations would come somewhat underground. They did not kill the spirit of freedom. They stymied the feeling of hope. But my second charge today is to talk about how we got here and where do we go from here. And so my first point is we got here because there is a feeling that you do not hear us. I say us because I cannot disassociate myself from other African Americans who are articulating this as a frustration in the streets. My grandmother said in 1967, "They don't hear us, baby. We should just stop talking." And so they did not hear my dad when he was up for principal at a school. And instead of being a principal, they assigned him to be a disciplinarian. They did not hear my mother, who graduated summa cum laude, but found no scholarships to attend school. They did not hear Emmett Till's screams. They did not hear George Floyd call for his mother. And until we learned to listen and hear, the call for justice will not be affirmed in this country. It is not that freedom and equality have been fully achieved, but the cry now is for justice. The great cleric St. Augustine said that in order for a person to have civil rights, justice, and equality must be twin engines to grab it. It is important for all of us to understand that African Americans want no less than the full extension of constitutional rights that will guarantee them not only freedom and equality, but justice, because justice brings with it fairness. And so I want to thank the committee for asking me to give reflections. I also want to say that the marches in the streets have little to do with equality. They have more to do with a cry of justice, because justice encapsulates freedom and equality. Langston Hughes said, "Justice is a blind goddess to which we blacks are wise. Her bandages hide two festering sores, which once perhaps were eyes." And so now George Floyd has become a flashpoint for American history. And that flashpoint has seen multi-ethnic marches around the nation. And finally, I conclude with a piece I wrote called A Letter to Roger. This morning, my friend Roger, a former Texas State student, a friend, and an overseas combat tour veteran, called and angrily said, "Doc Watson, you have to do something. Doc, they will listen to you." I have, in fact, written a book on the police and have a PhD in history. I was wondering what I could do. I've worked in prisons and jails and courts in my life. I could not find the words to calm him. I couldn't make sense out of yet another killing. In the last 4 months, at least 5 unarmed Black men have been killed and 1 woman. Yes, those who were sworn to uphold the law are the very ones that are their executioners. I hesitated to answer because I was nearly speechless. I could not comfort Roger because I was kind to calm my own damn rage. This must stop. Damn it, the killing must stop. You ask us not to kneel in protest, not to say Black Lives Matter, because it violates some unwritten code of American patriotism that only you are privy, or that it violates some white folk sensibility that only you understand from the code, de facto code of whiteness. We are either dying from COVID-19 or we are dying from police brutality. You ask us to stand. You ask us to pray. The very police who are charged to serve and protect us shoot us. So do not tell me about Black on Black crime and your tacit response to the senseless killings that are occurring. Feeling Roger's pain only intensified mine. The police, they do not shoot white folks the same way they shoot Black folks or for the same reason. Maybe it's because the price of killing us is so low. We kneel in silent reverence. We pray with hopeful change for a dialogue, and then we are blackballed. We are blacklisted and placed on a hit list for requesting our constitutional rights, knowing all too well that civil service and the police union will get the officers their jobs back when fired. When growing up in the Jim Crow South, I asked a neighbor once, Mr. Sam, should I call the police when 2 men were fighting? Mr. Sam said, no, baby, no, don't call no police. We'd rather call a cab to go to the hospital or call a truck to go to the morgue. Because if you call the police, them boys gonna get arrested. And then we gonna have to raise bond money to get them out. And they may get some other charge that they don't know nothing about. No, baby, don't call no police. But being from the South, we all knew that the relationship with the police was not reciprocal. We are rarely served and usually not protected very well by the police. They demand that we respect an unquestioned code of authority and obey a strict adherence to this code of race policing that victimizes us. But wake me. Didn't some white boys with guns threaten to shoot or kill folks in Michigan if they didn't open the economy in an effort to make us great again? Then they stood at the state capitol saying that the COVID fears were lies. They blocked intersections to the hospitals. They threatened to shoot up the government. And they said, if you try to disarm us, we will fight. And the police did nothing but a drunk man, a young Black man jogging, a Black woman in her bed in her apartment, a brother in his apartment eating ice cream, all appear to be deadly threats. And this Monday, an alleged $20 forgery charge made George Floyd join the ranks to those callously killed by police, largely because he was perceived to be a threat to order and authority of the police rather than the law. So let me get this straight. Colin Kaepernick kneeled in a peaceful effort to articulate the frustrations of Black folks dying because they are abused by those who are supposed to serve and protect them. You are angered at him for kneeling, but where is your anger over us kneeling over our caskets? Yeah, another brother's dead. Another brother's dead, Sherry, in Minnesota. This time he was killed by a policeman with his knee on his throat. Their actions will be justified. They were trying to arrest him, and they either could not or would not heed his call, his cries. I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe. Mama, I cannot breathe. In this case, like other police homicides, they were because they were fined to force compliance rather than the law. The argument by the police will be that he was resisting, argumentative, and combative, and he succumbed during the attempt to arrest him. He didn't succumb, damn it. He died. Didn't he deserve a level of decency and respect? Moreover, at the very least, didn't he deserve an extension of his natural rights to life and liberty? But in the last 10 years, recalcitrant police have killed Black men with impunity. Black women at times. Black women at times have also been seen as deadly threats and are shot as well. Transgendered and LGBTQ people are ignored. The numbers are staggering. Approximately 24% of all police shootings are African Americans. Well, 13% of we only constitute 13% of the population. So, Roger, what are we going to do? My intellectual response said, write something. But my angry soul wanted to get my guns and shoot something or demand something, for power concedes nothing without demand. But God in me told me that grace protects me and mercy carries me. And so, Roger, we will stand together. This, I know, this is a call for justice, not a call for stuff. The end. Thank you, Bobcat Nation.
Let's first take a moment of silence. Dr. Watson shared some very heart-wrenching and powerful truths. So we're going to take just a few minutes to let that soak in. When Dr. Watson expressed a truth that he lives in the reality and solidarity of all other Black people, he's speaking about something that my meditation teacher, Ruth King, says. She says, because of this Black skin, I am of those who look like me, are in danger and cannot escape the harm of others and cannot control the actions of others. I am an endangered species, but I sing no victim's song. Thank you, Dr. Watson. You always come with the right on time words. That was powerful. Asante. Thank you for helping us to better understand and situate the significance of our day of reflection and solidarity on Juneteenth and ourselves in the larger historical context of today's racial struggles.